After 3 whole decades of crap video game adaptations, one has finally emerged from the sludge that is this subgenre. Color me surprised, I guess. It only took the best video game story to do it, after all. The Last of Us is the first real big hit, both critically and commercially, in a genre that up to this point has been plagued with bad adaptations. It somehow even surpassed House of Dragon in viewership, if you can believe it. Folks, you know what that means. Get ready for an onslaught of video game adaptations that are sure to follow, especially considering how long studios and networks have been trying to break into this market with nothing to show for it. I don't know about you, but I for one am absolutely stoked for a Mass Effect billion-dollar TV show.
I'm quite good at genetics as a subset of biology because I am an expert which I know is a tautology.
But enough of that, let's talk about The Last of Us. It's pretty good, sort of like The Walking Dead, if The Walking Dead had good writing. It's a compelling, post-apocalyptic story with likable, well-rounded characters and a strong emotional core. Why does it succeed when so many of its predecessors failed? In short, HBO hired writers and directors with proven track records and made it a sticking point to stay loyal to the source material. Damn, who could have guessed that common sense was all it took to finally create a good video game adaptation? But anyways, let's get this plot summary started.
Gentlemen, let's plow the road!
The story takes place in a post-apocalyptic world, ravaged by a zombie pandemic, and follows Joel and Ellie. Joel is a hardened, middle-aged survivor with a traumatic past. He is played by Hollywood's new favorite actor, Pedro Pascal. Ellie is a snarky 14-year-old with a bit of a temper and a heart of gold, played by Bella Ramsey, a grown-up Lyanna Mormont. My typecasting senses are tingling.
Ooh, my spider sense is tingling.
Their journey revolves around Ellie's immunity to the virus, or fungus, and Joel's task of escorting her across post-apocalyptic zombie America to deliver her to a group known as the Fireflies who hope to create a vaccine using her immunity. Along the way, close relationships are formed, emotional barriers are broken down, bad guys are defeated, and a few zombies are killed. Emphasis on the word few. It's a relatively simple, yet incredibly powerful story that packs a real emotional punch. The challenge of this narrative was always going to be the core relationship between Joel and Ellie. If it works emotionally, as it did in the game, then the whole story works. If it doesn't, then it's just another generic zombie show. I am pleased to report that it does indeed work, and then some. A lot of credit should go to Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey, whose performances are outstanding. Both actors managed to provide their own versions of Joel and Ellie, while retaining the essence of what made them so damn likable in the first place. Pedro Pascal portrays a far more physically and emotionally vulnerable Joel, who is still every bit as brutal as game Joel when he needs to be. In fact, it actually adds weight to Joel's brutality because it contrasts much more with his softer nature presented throughout the show. Far too often the word anti-hero gets thrown around to describe characters that do not perfectly fit the mold of the traditional hero, but Joel is the real deal. A fully realized and believable character capable of great and terrible things.
Terrible. Yes. But great.
And thankfully, the show never holds back on the terrible part, portraying him as the true anti-hero he is meant to be. Bella Ramsey, on the other hand, took a little getting used to early on, but once her character settled in, an Emmy Award-winning performance blossomed, as she completely nailed Ellie to the freaking wall. Bella flawlessly portrays the erosion of Ellie's childlike innocence as she is forced to grow up in a harsh and unforgiving world. Despite her rebellious streak, Ellie's innate goodness shines through in Ramsey's portrayal. This is a real step up from her previous role as Lyanna Mormont, where she was limited to a charming but one-dimensional supporting character. As to the writers, they did a pretty good job of staying loyal to the source material, at times going way above and beyond even what I expected. Some scenes are pulled straight from the game, with the dialogue replicated line for line and the cinematography shot for shot. However accurate this show is to the game though, it never actually feels like a video game, which is a real triumph in its cinematic quality. Think of the Uncharted movie as an opposite example.
What? No!
When it comes to the pacing, it's slow, with zombie encounters being about as scarce as PS5s were during the pandemic. I've seen some people complaining about this, but to me it's not really a problem since the story and the characters are so compelling. High doses of zombies and action are only required in stories whose characters cannot carry their own weight, which is not really the case here. Slow pacing, when used properly, can actually feel refreshing, particularly in a world where attention spans are dwindling faster than mainstream interest in Marvel movies. Now that I have glazed up this show enough, I do have some minor criticisms about the season as a whole. First, the two big elephants in the room. Episode 3 and Episode 7 are both flashback episodes. While individually well crafted, they are relatively inconsequential to the story, failing to provide relevant character development, story progression, and world building. As isolated stories, they are certainly good episodes, but as part of a whole season not so much, since they bring the story's momentum to a screeching halt. There's also Karen, or Kathleen. She's supposed to be the resistance leader of a faction of post-apocalyptic revolutionaries or something.
You serious?
Yeah, I don't buy her either, that's the problem, but fortunately, she's only in it for 2 episodes. To be fair, I do like the actress in most of the stuff I've seen her in, I just think that she's miscast here. And speaking of problems, who can forget this scene? For context, in the game, Sam never tells Ellie that he was bitten. He simply hides the bite mark, and when Ellie wakes up the next day, he is already zombified. In the show, however, for some mind-boggling reason, Sam tells Ellie about his infection, and her reasonable and measured response is to smear some of her blood on his wound and fall asleep next to a soon-to-be zombie.
Not a great plan.
It's a pretty dumb change from the game that should have been left out. Her character is clearly much smarter than this. And lastly, I also did not care for the explanation of Ellie's immunity in the finale. I just don't think it's necessary. The fungus infected millions of people, and in one of them, the virus mutated and immunity was developed. This is fine and does not require a contrived explanation about Ellie's mother being bitten moments before Ellie's birth, and that being the reason for her immunity. It also devalues the whole concept, because now there's the formula to replicate it in the future.
Find someone else.
There is no one else.
Are you sure about that, Marlene? Ultimately, these are minor criticisms in an otherwise great show. Since I've rambled on for long enough, let's wrap this up. Season 1 has been pretty good, Season 2 probably won't be, but I can't wait for Tom Hardy to become part of the cast. So that's it, like the video and subscribe, or don't. As always, I leave you with...
See you, chump.